Hi, welcome to Gabe's Cave. I'm Gabe Rosson.
I'm Darren.
I'm Brandon.
And drill pool's in the back.
Hi, everybody.
That's me. No, I'm just kidding.
We're going to start with thanking our sponsor. That's RPG. They're building people, changing lives. And that's rpghiring.com. Check them out. And today we're here with our special guest, Jeremy Clark.
Oh, that's me. All right.
That's you.
Nice to see you guys.
That's you. He is an artist. He worked on comic books. We have a lot of them here for you to see.
A few.
Just
a few.
A few.
Not too many.
And we can start with, first off, who are you?
So, as you said, I'm Jeremy Clark. I'm a professional comic book inker / finisher. I've worked with a number of different companies like IDW, Image, Zenescope, Coffin Comics, SourcePoint Press, and the list goes on. So I'm primarily known for doing cover ink work, which allows me to work with a lot of unique individuals in the comic book industry. So there's a lot of different styles and a lot of different things that you guys might find intriguing on today's episode.
Right. What would you say your best work that people would recognize you by?
Well, early on, I did a lot of work with Mike DeBalfo for Zenescope. I'm sure there might be a few of your fans out there that are familiar with the Grimm Fairy Tales series or some of those types of books. And early on in my career, because I was working so much with Mike, we did a lot of like the San Diego Comic-Con exclusives and New York Comic-Con exclusives for some of those titles. So I think early people started to recognize me for that, but now probably the Lady Death, La Muerta, Hell Witch, a lot of different sorts of things there, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and a lot of other titles that I think provide a lot of different genres for people to really dive into. So it's not one specific thing. It's not just like cheesecake or cartoons or whatever. There's a little bit of everything, I think, for everybody out there.
Cool. What is your most recent work you've done?
Well, actually, coming out here next month in July, we've got the new issue 106 cover that I worked on with Eric Henson and Juan Fernandez, who actually just wrapped up a new Spawn cover with Ken Lashley. So cool. If you dig his colors, he colored up the new TMNT cover that we worked on, and that is coming out actually July 15th. So you can pre-order it now, have all of us sign it at a future show, hopefully, given the current state of the country and what's going on with COVID and everything else. Shows are a little bit on hold currently, but ideally we'd like to sign those things for you guys. So
yeah, absolutely. We'd like to certainly would like to see you out there and get back to shows as a whole.
Yeah, and there's a lot of content coming out that I've been working on during this period of time, being kind of locked down, not being able to get out and about. And so, yeah, there's a lot of new things coming out through Coffin Comics here over the next few months that you guys can look forward to. And a lot of stuff through SourcePoint Press with the Broken Gargoyles and Franklin and Ghost and Warcorns and a lot of other just funny comedic kind of elements that might at least give you a distraction in this time.
Who are you currently working with?
So there's, like I said earlier, because of I'm primarily working on covers with guys, I get to work with a lot of different creative art teams. And I think the ones that I work with most consistently in terms of pencilers would probably be Raymond Gay currently. We did actually that TMNT 100 cover together, which is featured here on the side of the table. But we've also worked on Broken Gargoyles and a lot of different titles as well, including Ogre and Dead End Kids and just a lot of different type of content for SourcePoint Press, but also some for IDW as well. But lately, that's who I've been really cranking out stuff with, along with Eric Henson, like I said earlier, Mike DeBalfo, a lot of different pencilers over the years. Plus, Phillips and Jose Varese. which is content for OMG, which I think is something that you guys had on there at some point just recently, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, Rob Dieterle's series, OMG, a horror anthology. I'm getting to ink Ray on some covers for that. I'm also working with Jose Variz and Phillips still for some things for that series as well. So lots of really fun stuff, a lot of different genres for people out there.
So you keep saying inking and penciling. What's the difference of the two? And because I'm not as familiar with all the art, so I'm sure they aren't either.
Yeah, so
a little bit there.
No problem. I like to kind of refer to inking as I guess the easiest way for me to describe it would be an analogy, okay? And so bear with me. If you don't follow along, I understand completely. We can cut all of this out. No, I'm just kidding. So think of it as the penciler as like the foundation for a house. Okay, you got to have a really strong foundation. You got to build the structure of the house before you can make it a home, right?
Right.
And so without that strong structure, strong foundation, you're not going to have a good house. And then it's my job to come in after getting the pencil layout from whoever it is that I'm working with and embellish it in such a way that it takes it to that next level. So think about, if we're still using the same analogy, it's when you start to add the furniture in the house, the knickknacks on the walls, the things that turn that house into a home. That's sort of my job in terms of inking. It's trying to take it to that final step right before it goes to publication, to the colorist, to lay in that final stuff that you guys ultimately see in the books.
Right. So it's almost like a sketch, and then like finer details of a sketch.
So some pencilers are considerably more detailed than others. I've worked with both over the years. Some are pretty loose, and you got to go in and do what's called finishes, which is you're tightening everything up and kind of laying in all the details along the way. Then there's other pencilers that already have a really, good, consistent line work throughout the composition, and it's just my job to clean things up a little bit, maybe beef up some of the line weights to help provide some of that depth so it doesn't look so flat, and then to add some textures and things that maybe you can't quite emulate with a pencil through the inking stage. And that, I think, is what takes it to, like I said, that next level. So, yeah.
I'm blank. I was going to ask you something else when you were just talking about that, and I forgot what it was.
Well, who do you like working with the most?
That's a loaded question in a lot of ways. I don't want to get anybody's feelings hurt, but there's a lot of pencilers that I've worked with, and some are definitely more considerably easier going than others. But at the end of the day, each one has their own unique style, their unique flair, and so it's my job to be able to kind of act like a chameleon and adapt to whatever it is that I'm working with. You don't want to overwhelm the piece so that it's no longer that penciler's, work that you're seeing, but it's definitely a collaboration of each of you working together in a way that, just takes it as a team effort as opposed to like, oh, well, you overran that thing. It's like that kid on the soccer field, growing up where he just always had the ball himself, and you never liked that guy because you're like past the ball. So it's kind of that way. I'd like to just be a part of that team effort and build something great together that you can both be proud of as a team.
Okay. And I see we've got some work here out in front of us. You want to talk about some of that? You have this row up here in the front. You can see that very well.
Yeah, I don't know if they can, but these are some examples of some of the cover work that I've had the pleasure of being a part of over the years. Up here in the front, you have Eden, which is a series that Eric Henson created, and it was actually the very first time that I ever worked with him on a cover. And then we did this cover next for Image Comics called Prodigy that Mark Millar wrote, and it was a really good mini-series that was part of his whole Miller World, Netflix thing that he was going on about. And then we just, like I said, here coming out next month, The next one that I worked on with Eric was this TMNT, issue 106. Not the one that's displayed here, obviously, but one that's got Mikey with a slice of pizza in his belt and rocking the old Bruce Lee pose.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah, you can't really go wrong with that. But it's got all 5 turtles on the cover.
Right.
It's got the Mousers on it. Do you remember the little metal robot, like dino-looking kind of villains that were running around trying to attack the turtles over the years? Oh my gosh, those were my favorite.
The turtles, but I don't know all everything else.
Yeah, so it's just got a plethora of Mousers running around. You know, they're chopping them to bits. There's parts flying all over the place. Right. It's a really dynamic cover, and I think Eric did a great job with the layout on that. And actually, I forgot before that. We actually worked on, why am I blanking? It was the Scott Snyder series for Image. My goodness. I don't know why I'm blanking on it. But anyways, Scott Snyder. It's a pretty reputable name. It's a good book. And yeah, you can find that one as well. But Juan Fernandez colored all of those actually for us. So he's one of those colorists that has been around a long time and has been consistently working with us on those series. And then of course we've got like Ogre, Broken Gargoyles, which the very first issue is dropping for Broken Gargoyles later this month, so you can have it pre-ordered through Diamond at your local comic shop. And actually, if we look on the overhead cam here, this is the original cover art for issue 1, which you'll be seeing in that preview issue. And then I've got a number of other covers in here too, including issue 3's cover for Broken Gargoyles, which I will be releasing the colors for here very soon.
Cool.
So if you guys are keeping track of my work, you'll get to see that coming out here shortly. But aside from that, we obviously have the classic Lady Death. You know, everybody likes that. It's a little bit more on the risque side, which is for your older audiences, if you will. But there is a very strong Fiend Nation of followers and support that come from that.
And Brian's one of the hardest working guys in comics, and I know he likes to bring in a lot of artists when he does his Lady Death stuff, so it's awesome to see those pumping out still.
And those Kickstarters are just crazy. Oh, yeah. You know, they're 6 figures every single time. People are unlocking stretch goals like you wouldn't believe, but you know, it's got really phenomenal talent associated with it. You know, even if you don't like any of the stuff I'm putting out on those things, you've got guys like Frank Cho, like Art Germ, really top tier guys that are also contributing to those series. And so even if you're not familiar with it and you like those types of illustrators, you should check it out just simply for the content. But yeah, so those, we got the stuff that I'm working on with Garrett Gunn for Franklin and Ghost, which late last year during New York Comic Con, the TV series for it was getting announced, and the cast was being announced for it, which included Billy Bob Thornton, Sean Schemmel from Dragon Ball Z, Christopher Sabat, and a really good group of top-tier voice acting talent, which I think is going to really elevate how that comic is displayed in terms of an animated series.
Yeah, for sure.
With that kind of talent, that kind of voice talent, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, it should go. It should get a lot of buzz.
Yeah, and I've been real fortunate. Garrett has had me work in terms of the inking on all of the covers since volume 1, actually. So I've been associated with it since the beginning, which is really nice. And for that, I got to work with Chris Williams. I got to work with a lot of really talented guys over there as well. Tommy Shelton did some colors. You know, there's just so many people involved when you're kind of like sitting in the in the middle of everybody. You're on both sides of that coin, and you get to work with just so many really talented folks.
And since you're associated with it, can you just do like a wink and say, "Hey, can I do some voice acting on the show?" Like maybe like a
nobody wants to hear this voice. Probably even during this segment here, they're like, "Can you just shut that guy up?"
Maybe like a cameo appearance, right?
He's had one too many lines. Like, get poor Gabe in here,
You can just go in there and say, "Oh no," and then you die. Something on the show.
Well, if they don't, for you guys that are viewing this, if you don't want to hear my voice and the actual talented individuals, IGN actually dropped the teaser trailer for season 1's first episode. So if you just Google, Franklin and Ghost, IGN, you should see like a 2-minute teaser trailer with them voicing out the characters.
And we'll leave some links in the description so people can view.
Yeah. There's just there's a lot of really cool stuff coming. Just during this period of time that we've been kind of in a quarantine and a lockdown, I've probably cranked out 10 covers, just during this time, a lot of which I can't show because the stuff comes out, obviously. You have to wait for it to release before you can actually drop the images out there. But at some point during this segment, I'll briefly flip through here and allow folks to see some of what like the raw lines look like prior to it going to the publications that they see.
Well, let's why don't we go do that now, and we'll see what.
Sure. So if you want to grab me that book there, this might be a good little way to do it, kind of side by side. So what ends up happening is I'll come up with some kind of a composition. When I'm working with Ray in particular, I like to doodle out just a very quick preliminary kind of concept in terms of where I want the characters positioned, how I want them to be featured, and then he takes that very rudimentary doodle and comes back with the amazing pencil layout that I get. And then from that stage, I go in and I traditionally ink everything because he does the pencils digitally.
Okay.
And then I actually work traditional on the page, lay in everything that you're seeing here. And then that gets scanned in and sent off to the colorist, which in this particular case was Juan Fernandez.
Okay.
And then they translate that, compress it down, and that's what you see in the covers here.
So for anybody that may have this question, this paper here I can see is a special paper that you do the cover on that is scannable.
Yeah,
right. I can
right.
see.
So the you might see hints of blue or like non-photo blue in here. The way that the scanners work is I'm not going to obviously follow every blue line that's on there. Otherwise, that would be the epitome of a particular Chasing Amy movie that he jokes around about inkers being tracers, and so naturally that's not the type of thing that we want to perpetuate. So no, we don't actually follow everything. There's an art in the way that you actually approach inking and trying to interpret what the penciler wanted, right? And in this particular case, all this blue, like residual blue that you see when I actually scan this page in, I can set the scanner to remove the cyan levels, which is what those blue levels are. And that way, the only thing that actually shows up is the inks themselves. And that's what ultimately gets sent off to the colorist. But I thought this would be a good example since we had the books already out, especially for the audience to be able to kind of gauge how it goes from this oversized image that you see here. We work on 11 by 17, and then that gets turned into what you guys ultimately see in the form of the books. But, I'll flip through a few of these. Like this was a cover that I did for Franklin and Ghost for Volume 2 over Marcelo Traum, who was the penciler, who's no longer with us. So it was kind of a unique thing to be able to work with him for the time that I was. And he has this very different style from what people are used to seeing like my work of. It's a much more animated look. Yeah. Very, very bold. Not nearly as many like detailed textures and things. It's all about having it very animated, very bold. And it was good for me because it helped me to have to get out of my, my own comfort zone and work in a formula or format that I don't usually work in, which is nice. It just helps to have more quills, so to speak, in the old quiver. And this was a piece that I did with Jose Variz for a series called Ulysses Vision. And I actually brought some of those books with me, but I didn't bring them out to the table. So ultimately, you see a lot of blue in here, and that's because it would make no sense for me to lay in all the textures of like the bricks and stuff when the colors can like drop a thing in about a half a second to do so. And so in a lot of ways, that's about getting the most important content there in the fastest amount of time so that you're always meeting your deadlines, right? But these are all the raw inks that are done traditional. And you'll see a lot of different styles and things here as well. This was for Ryan Kincaid's series Persuasion, and it was my inks over Anthony Spey, who's now actually penciling some Batman stuff over at Detective. I think he's working on Detective Comics, issue whatever right now for DC. So
10,000.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun to get to work with him on that. But Ryan's also doing work for the OMG book, and so you'll start to notice a number of similar names, and it's because we've all worked together for a number of years, and so. Right. But you'll also notice that between these two images here, for you guys in the audience viewing this, they're stylistically very different. One has a lot of different types of textures, whereas this one is a more traditional kind of comic book style image. And so each book has a different unique feel and look to them based off of who the creative art team is. And so that's what I find so unique and striking about working in these, on these series, because it's always new. It's always fresh, right? Yeah. It's kind of like, okay, so my favorite holiday is Christmas, for those of you listening.
That's a good holiday.
It's a great holiday.
I think everybody likes Christmas.
I think everybody loves Christmas.
I would hope so.
If you don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. You haven't seen enough lights. I don't know. I don't know. There's not enough tinsel out there. But for me, when I get asked to work on a new project, like a new book, new content, I never know what it's going to look like until the image comes to me, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like unwrapping a gift every single time. It's like Christmas every week. I get fresh content, fresh stuff, new things to see. And just like these two images here, this was actually for Warcorns, Combat Unicorns for Hire. If you can imagine a bunch of unicorns running around blowing things up and shooting guns and having a grand old time.
Cigars.
Yeah. Each one has a really, they're all representative of a different branch of the military. It is nothing but debauchery and fun. And it's written by Garrett Gunn, who actually is ex-military. So, he's got a unique perspective on it as a veteran. And it was a really, really fun thing to work on. And in fact, I don't know if you want to slip this up there, but that is the published version of it. So they did a really cool little, chromium kind of variant of it, and I can't show the reviews of the book that are on the back, but I can assure you that they are equally as interesting as the book itself. So if you don't know anything about Warcorns, it's from SourcePoint Press. It's part of the Franklin and Ghost universe. So they actually, Franklin and Ghost do make an appearance in Warcorns. Okay. And if you like any of that kind of like Rick and Morty, Adult Swim type cartoon entertainment, that's sort of what this series is all about. And I'm constantly producing new content for Garrett. Mm-hmm. We just did a homage cover to New Mutants '87. The Rob Liefeld, the Cable on the cover, and I actually think I have the original art in here, which I can tease to you guys, which would be really cool. And that's part of the same universe, same series for DFN 3, which is like this cyborg chick that makes an appearance in there. But since we were talking about TMNT earlier, in issue 106, well, that right there is the original cover for it. So that's the...
And he wasn't lying. There is a pizza slice.
There is a pizza slice in Mikey's belt. It is a ton of fun. I don't know how well you guys could see that, but I had an absolute blast working on this. Eric has a very crisp, clean kind of style to his penciling, and I enjoy working with him on all this type of content. So I was really stoked to get to add another turtle book to the repertoire, and hopefully you guys dig it as well. It's just a lot of fun. I know in the issue 100 that I did with Ray, we had Mikey actually taking a selfie on the cover with, it was this very brooding, serious scene, and then he's over there on the side, just snapping a selfie,
right.
being completely, not part of the rest of the mood of the group. And it's fun. I love, who doesn't like turtles? They were kind of
we have a giant one sitting right over there. You guys can't see it.
Yeah, there is a Mikey right over there.
You can't see it, but...
So, I don't know if you guys have looked at, the raw line work up close before, but you'll notice that there's a lot of different styles based off of who the penciler was. And, I just try my best every time to make sure that I'm giving it 100% on the lines for them,
Right.
At the end of the day, it's not about me, it's about the team.
Right.
And you never want to let down the team as a whole, so you just, you try your best to...
Like the Danger Girl, I know there's a lot of J. Scott Campbell fans.
Yeah, so this I actually got to do. This was supposed to be the London Film and Comic Con exclusive this year out in the UK, and naturally, along with all the shows that were getting canceled, that one was one of the victims as well. But I actually got to work on that with British illustrator John Royal, who does a lot of G.I. Joe stuff, a lot of the IDW titles, and has a very J. Scott Campbell style to his work, which is what is appealing to a lot of his fans. And that was the first time I got to work with him, and it was going to be for this big double signing out in London, and unfortunately, that's going to have to be put on hold.
Yeah.
We're going to need Abby Chase to make it back out there somehow.
Hey, we're trying. I know I promoted the heck out of it, and we were really excited about it, and you guys will just have to stay tuned and keep an eye out on my posts and see when we can actually get it out there. But yeah, there's just so much different type of content here. This is another Franklin and Ghost cover, which I got to work on with Chris Williams. Now you can see there's a ton of blue peeking through, right in here, because he's a bit, rougher. He doesn't quite clean up, a bunch of the lines and stuff, because he knows I'm going to go in and take it to that, the next level in terms of detail. And there's also no reason, you'll notice that all the wording and lettering is in blue, because ultimately there's no reason for me to ink all that. It's going to be digitally altered and laid back in black anyway. So I don't think that perhaps, or maybe they do, but some of the audience, people that are viewing this, maybe they've never seen it quite like this. They just assume that everything is being laid in, and that's how it gets to the book. But there are certain things that we leave out.
That was me. I had no idea.
Oh,
really? I had no idea. No,
you're not just saying that for the content.
I was curious myself. Yeah, no, I had no idea.
well, good. See, that's and that's why I brought this stuff, was to kind of help give a peek behind the curtain, if you will, on how some of the stuff is done. This was a cover that I did for Sugar Pop, which is a Dan Mendoza series, if you know him from Zombie Tramp, which is pretty iconic. He ventured out and started doing his own series, and again, this was me with Jose Varese. And we've been knocking out a bunch of stuff for Dan as well as for Brian over at Coffin Comics, and so that's where you're going to see a lot of the content that we've been doing together are going to be for those two companies. Moving right along here, this was actually my inks over Steve Geiger, who worked on The Punisher for Marvel back in the day.
Okay, cool.
He did a lot of stuff for Marvel in the 90s, and this was actually inked, if I'm not mistaken, directly over the original pencils. So I sometimes I'll work on blue lines, sometimes I'll work directly over the original pencils. And it's the difficulty with inking directly over the original pencils is you got to erase that residual graphite, right? Right. And so sometimes you'll pull up ink, you got to go back, re-ink certain areas, and so I find it to be a bit more tedious, but at the end result is also very clean, very very dynamic looking, and this was the first time I ever got to work with him on that, and it was pretty cool. Oh yeah, so here we go.
Yes.
Yeah, we got some good stuff here. So for those of you that are familiar with Rob Liefeld's New Mutants '87 cover, this should look quite similar, and that's because it was an homage to his cover. And in fact, the really cool thing about this is after I debuted this and I posted it up, Rob on Twitter retweeted it and gave it some love as well. And so he definitely saw it. He obviously dug it. And I was super stoked to have him enjoy it. But this was another collaboration that I did with Raymond. So you'll notice there's very similar styles, both of these side by side or with myself and Ray. And I think that I've been probably doing some of the best work of my career with him. We do really hyper detailed stuff, and I try my best to give it, everything I got in each one of the pieces. But even in this particular piece, you'll see up here, this is Franklin, Ghost, and Delilah, which are all part of the Franklin and Ghost series. It's kind of incorporating and bringing them all back full circle for those books. And that way you can keep the audience engaged, involved, and bring them into new titles because they're already familiar with some of these other characters, which is really fun and nice to see as well. But next to it is, we showed you the issue 1 Broken Gargoyles cover earlier. This is actually the issue 3, which again I'll be debuting some of the colors for here in the very near future. So keep an eye out for that. But if you really like this type of style of work, Ray and I are consistently pumping out stuff every single month. So keep an eye out for us, in terms of the work that we're doing. But do one more here. Flashback to the past here. Is there any of you guys fans of God of War? Yeah, so Gabe here we go. Dive in here, buddy. Yeah. So what's your favorite part of God of War?
Well, I only played the newest one, so.
Oh, daggers! Just daggers. No, so this is actually a really old work of mine. I forgot that it was in here actually. This was the very first time I ever inked Mike DeBalfo.
Okay.
And it was on this layout of God of War. I believe Sony Entertainment, if I recall the story correctly, it's been over 6 years. Mm-hmm. They reached out to him, wanting him to create an image for their internal art gallery over at the Santa Monica Studios in California. And, he didn't know where it was going, what they were going to do with it. Was it just going to be in there? Was it going to be like stuff for the series? What was going on? And he reached out to me and was like, "Hey, you want to get in on this?" And it was the very first time I ever worked with him on anything. And then 2 years ago, it got colored up in multiple different variations. One was like more concept, kind of looking. It was very gritty. The other one was a little bit more of a polished variation of it. And that was all I knew about it from that point on. Then 2 years ago, I was appearing at C2E2 in Chicago, and a Sony rep actually came up to me and said he goes, "I've seen this image before. You worked on that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I worked on it with so-and-so and so-and-so, Mike and the gang." And he was like, "I've had to walk by that image like so many times over at the Sony headquarters because I guess they blew it up, and it wasn't just in their gallery, but he told me that they had it blown up as a really big image like near the rec area and stuff. So they had he had to walk by this image of Kratos, flying around like every single day, and that was the coolest thing because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what had happened with it. I didn't know if they turned it into anything at all. At the end of the day, Mike and I, we made prints of it, and that was it. But we never heard any follow-ups about what ended up happening.
It's cool that they had it just blown up in the, as you walk by. I'm sure, going through a studio like that, they wouldn't just be blank walls, but that's cool.
Yeah, and so cool. I never knew until that gentleman had come up to me in Chicago. I didn't know anything about it. We just assumed that it was scrapped. He got paid by them to do it and whatever, and it was what kind of started me working with him on the Zenoscope stuff later after we did this. And yeah, it's kind of a cool little flashback to the past. But since we've been staring at nothing but covers and pinups, it's cool that we end on this page here because it's an interior page, right? You know, for those of you guys that actually open the book and read the little word bubbles and things, they come in these little panel boxes. And occasionally I'll work on the interiors as well. This is a sequential page from a World War II series that I got to do some work on called White Lily.
Okay.
And, you know, it's in some ways more time-consuming, and in other ways not as time-consuming. It just depends on what's in the panels, right?
Right.
Some of them can just be very, you know,
simple,
blank, yeah. And other times, like, you're laying in whole planes or Jeeps and, like, just one panel, and you're like, my God, I've spent as much time on this panel as I could have done like an entire cover. So it just depends, and I think that's probably a good way, good option, at least art-wise, to end on, so that people can see, you know, how the paneling works, how some of the boxing works, and goes from there. But
well, I'm just curious. What is some of your favorite work you've done? If you had to just say just a couple, you know, what are your favorite works that you've done?
Well, you know, whoever pays me on time is always a great one. You know,
I understand that.
Got to pay the bills somehow. So, I, you know, in all honesty, I think some of the most interesting and unique work I've gotten to do has been the stuff with Ray, because I've gotten to go slightly out of the role of just an inker and gotten to go more into the creative process of it by just laying out some of those very rudimentary concepts and then seeing it evolve into that next step before it gets back to me. But obviously I have a soft spot in my heart for anything Coffin Comics related. Right. Brian has always been amazing towards me, and you know, we're still cranking stuff out every single month. So even though you guys might not see it, it's there, it's in, and you know, it'll ultimately come out eventually with some of the other stuff. And even some of the more indie projects, you know, like the OMG thing. It's interesting because it's like we're creating it on the fly in a lot of ways. There's not really a hard script that we're working off of. It's like, let's do something with spiders. I'm working on the Spider Queen cover right now, which is quite elaborate. I'm working on it with Ray again. And, you know, it's one of those things where, whoa, let's do something with spiders. Well, what do you want with spiders? Well, what do you like about spiders? I don't like spiders. They keep biting me. What do you like about spiders? I'm not Spider-Man yet, so why would I? What do I want spiders for? And so it's kind of these cool, like, little interactive conversations that you know, make it interesting, and then it evolves into something, and we ultimately, you know, put it out to you guys, and hopefully you guys dig it too. So,
well. Super informative today. And before we end, what are some things that you can hint at them or us of what's coming out? Just like one little hint, you know, something.
So I can't show it. You notice we probably only got about halfway into the portfolio here, and that's because I have a number of covers in there that are done, submitted, but haven't released yet, that I can't quite show you guys yet. But if you guys like this character here, you know, or either, you know, who's patriotic out there? We might have a holiday coming out. It's quite patriotic. I don't know, fireworks and things might be involved, and there may or may not be a cover with a particular character that I'm looking at. That might be featured in an exclusive variant associated with said holiday. It's hard to say. You know, I don't know.
Will the world ever know? Maybe not.
We'll see. We'll see.
Probably.
But if you could piece it together, you might be onto something.
We need to get that. We need to put the GIF of what's his name off The Hangover. He's like, the numbers flying around.
Oh yeah, it's all around us.
Right. The numbers, Mason. What do they mean? Well, I guess we should go to the artist spotlight of last week, the winners. Let's give some stuff away, guys.
Yeah, let's do that.
Now it's time to give away last week's artist, Wayne Tully.
You're gonna give him away?
Yeah, I don't think he appreciates that.
How are you gonna wrangle him and get him here to give him away?
I don't know.
He's in the UK.
Are you sure it's not his art, perhaps?
It might be.
Did he doodle on something? What do you got there?
We got cards.
Look at that.
I have
Giveaways.
art cards. Hopefully you left a comment on which one you wanted. Because we're about to give them away right now, and you're too late. Brandon, do it up.
Let's do it.
All right. I've never been around for one of these here giveaways.
Congratulations.
You know, that was one of my books. I'm just kidding. Jeez. He owes me now. For whatever winner
Brandon,
it is.
what are you doing, man?
Whoever you are out there, just know. You're definitely a winner today.
All right.
You're going to get this book.
Wow. All right. Brandon, what are you mad about?
It's not over.
Yeah.
You know, I realized that one of my books was called Ogre, but I didn't know that somebody was going to actually cosplay it here. And they start just berating the whole thing.
We miss Comic-Cons.
I get it. Hey, look, I mean, I'm right there along with you. I wish I could be there too.
Yeah, I really want to go back.
What happened to May 27th? Or was it March?
I don't know what you're talking about.
That was the date of Dallas Comic Con.
Was it?
Yeah.
And then it was June, and now it's never.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's indefinitely on
They still have not-
standby.
yeah.
It's like an Alert 5 fighter craft that just is just sitting there waiting
Where's
to
my
be
money?
announced.
Dallas?
Yeah. Wait, no.
Yeah, where's...
You're good people in Dallas. You got good people.
I like you, but
Don't listen to him. I'll still come.
Great,
I
they
want
need
them
their...
to have it, but they're not going to have it.
That's true.
Anyway,
So who was the winners?
Oh, yeah, the winners are here, somewhere else on the screen.
There?
That's one.
Okay.
And dead last, which is Gabe's Cave Consolation Prize. We love you still, but you're dead last.
Again? I heard this was an ongoing thing.
Rip in peace. And now let's do the giveaway for this week. And this week's artist spotlight is Richard Sorreo. It's Richard Sorreo on Facebook and Richard Sorreo Art on Instagram. Check him out.
Looks like he does some watercolor stuff.
He does, yeah. He starts with watercolor, and does a marker next, and I believe he, a little bit of.
So all the things I don't do.
Yeah,
That's good.
I think he finishes it up with colored pencil, then just seals it with some form of sealer.
That is a talent I don't have. So you guys should definitely check it out.
I am there with you.
Yeah.
I wish I could, but I can't. That's why I pay people to do it for me.
It's the nature of the beast.
We all gotta make money somehow.
Half the battle won.
And I'm over here like,
Well, let's check out some of these cards that we're going to give away next week.
Yeah.
We've got a Ghost Rider.
Ooh.
A Pennywise. I don't know that one.
That's the Crow.
That's Eric
Brandon
Draven.
Lee.
Yeah.
Darth Maul. I can't. That's one of the Inquisitors.
yeah, she looks like an Inquisitor.
She's in
Rebels?
Fallen Order.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that's the one from Fallen Order.
I still yet to beat that. That is Furiosa from Mad Max.
That is correct.
I believe that is Mad Max of some form. I cannot remember that guy's name.
It's the evil guy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Immortan Joe.
Yeah.
His name is Immortan Joe. That's right. Thanks, Brandon.
I was getting there.
We got a Joker. And a Xenomorph.
Yes, indeed.
Nice.
There you go.
We normally ask each other
Pretty cool.
who's this their favorite. We'll start with you.
My favorite?
What is your favorite out of this group here?
No.
You gotta choose.
That's a good question. put me on the spot like that. I don't. So I was actually having a conversation talking about James O'Barr's The Crow recently, and that was kind of one of the series because it was all in black and white. For those of you that don't know, it was all raw line work. There was no color besides on the covers, and so I'm gonna choose the Crow because that's what got me interested in doing inks.
Wow.
Hey. There you go, a little insight.
Nothing wrong with that. Gabe, what about you?
I like the Maul and the Inquisitor.
Okay. All right.
Doubling down.
I also like the Eric Draven, The Crow. I've talked extensively with James O'Barr at some different places, and just the backstory of why he did The Crow and like his real life happenstances. That's really...
It'll hit you in the feels, guys. It'll hit you in the feels.
I've never seen The Crow.
There's just if you read the books too.
Oh man, you know he's buried next to Bruce Lee. Did
not know that.
In Seattle, near Seattle. It's either Oregon or Washington, because I went to their grave.
Okay.
Yeah, when I was there.
I would say my favorite is probably Maul or Ghost Rider. You can't see it from the camera, but that Ghost Rider has so much texture and so much just little detail in it. And I don't know if he just took a paintbrush and just acrylic, like just splattered it.
A little splatter effect.
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic. There's so much just in such a small card, but also Maul because it's Darth Maul. And that's one of the cards that I don't have in my collection. So if you're an artist watching and you want to draw me a Maul, send us an email right here because I would like some Mauls.
There's a dude right there.
He doesn't do Star Wars.
That's true. I haven't ever worked on Star Wars.
Or acrylic and colored pencil.
That is also true.
Another stuff. I'd take a black and white. I really would.
You want those sweet inks, though. You come talk to this guy. Speaking of which, should I tell them where they can find me at? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, no.
Well, give them your address.
Yeah.
And your social security number.
I take requests. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
No, you guys can find me if you're unfamiliar with the work that I do, or you just want to see more of it and you're not quite following all the areas yet. You can find me everything social media wise. It's real easy. It's just at Jeremy Clark Art. So that's for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. The whole shebang. It's all about that synergy, right, boys?
Absolutely.
And, if that doesn't suit your fancy and you want a little bit more, you can just go to jeremyclarkart.com. And,
fancy.
Yeah.
Easy
cheesy. Easy peasy.
And to ask, I'll go ahead and answer some questions here or ask you some questions.
Sure.
Do you take on commissions?
I'm not currently, because my commission list is closed, but I do from time to time reopen it. It's just right now.
Do you announce it on your socials?
I do. And I probably post the most on Instagram and Facebook because Instagram, I guess, auto posts it over to Facebook and Twitter, which is pretty cool. And so if you really just want to follow me in one particular area that you know it's going to end up on, Instagram's the way to go. But if you don't have that, there's all the other ones too. And it's all just my name, if you can remember that, and the word art.
Absolutely. Well, if you want to win one of these cards by Richard Sorreo, make sure you leave a comment down below stating which card you want. And,
Even you.
Yeah, you can leave a comment. Yeah. I'm not going to leave a comment. I'm just going to take them all for myself.
Is that not how this works? My bad.
You don't even want to know.
My bad.
You don't even know what the conversations that have happened.
Cut the camera. I'm going to take one while I can. I'm just kidding. Yeah, leave a comment,
That'll
guys.
be blurred out.
Yeah.
And make sure that if you were one of the winners that we pointed at earlier, you send us an email at right here. Send us an email stating or tell us that you're the winner and your address and
Mailing address.
Mailing address. That's the same thing.
We'll take either.
Post office.
I mean, we'll take either one.
I don't know, guys. I got a P.O. box.
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, some people have P.O. boxes. So.
I don't. Maybe I should get one as much stuff as I order, but...
Yeah, this is derailing fast, huh?
Where we're going with this?
Don't know.
Well, I had an absolute blast being on with you guys.
Absolutely,
So,
it's been great. Learned a lot of stuff.
Yeah, hopefully there was a little bit of informative stuff there. Hopefully you guys check out all the cool new books and new content that's coming out. I'm always producing new stuff. And even if you don't like what I'm doing, there's the other guys in the creative art team that would enjoy some of those shout outs as well. So, it's about everybody involved. So I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah. Just here so I don't get fined.
What?
Gabe? We'll see you next time.
Bye.